Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We're just giving a few moments for folks to load into the room. We will be recording this morning's webinar, and we'll go ahead and send that out along with a copy of the slide deck to everyone this afternoon. So you don't have to madly take notes. You can just sit and be fully present and listen. I will be taking questions today. If you want to leverage the Q&A box, we have disabled the chat to keep everything streamlined into one area to make it easier for me to answer and catch all of your questions that come through. So go ahead and get started. So I'm Jennifer Quintero, and I am the Director of Marketing and Sustainability here at Sensiba San Filippo and the B Corp Practice Leader. So I help my clients navigate B Corp certification, figure out how to pull together all the documentation and what exactly some of those very vague questions mean in the assessment. So we're going to dig into kind of the benefits, the why, and how you all can undertake the journey of becoming a certified B Corp. So I'm going to start with just this purpose-driven, mission-driven business world is starting to open up. And it was starting to open up in 2019 and before that, and 2020 really put an emphasis, like many things, it really stopped and gave us all pause to think about, how we impact the world as individuals, and for business owners, how our businesses impact the world, the people in it, the employees, the planet. And so it really urged folks to really look at things and see how to be better and how to be a positive impact in the environment and the world around them. So it is B Corp certification is one of many sustainability or ESG, environmental, sustainable, and governance frameworks that are out there. There are several different frameworks out there, which I know can be quite daunting for many to know which one is the right one. And I'll give you, my opinions on why I like B Corp as a good choice for a lot of businesses. But I will say having B Corp certification or having a third-party framework certification is a real differentiator in today's very competitive market. And it really helps, the naysayers or the folks that think that your claims are just greenwashing. You actually have a third party come in and verify that no, what you say is true. You really are eco-friendly. You really do treat your employees well. You really are good stewards of the resources that you gather from the planet. So sustainability frameworks are fabulous for doing that, and so many more benefits. So first off, what is B Corp certification? I know a lot of people are seeing the B Corp logo pop up, if they, walk through a mall and they see the Athleta storefront window, they see the big B Corp certification on that. They pick up their Cabot cheese in the supermarket and they see the B Corp logo on that. Or maybe it's the Tom's toothpaste or Tom's shoes. There's so many different B Corps out there now that it's fantastic because it's getting the word out on what this is to consumers. And so basically B Corp certification is kind of like fair trade is to coffee or USDA is to milk. It's a globally recognized certification. That's one of the reasons I really like B Corp. It is globally recognized, particularly for businesses. This is meaningful for businesses that maybe have their headquarters in one part of the world, but then have branches in several other parts. They can certify their brand and it covers all of their branches throughout the world. And it's rigorous. And when I mean rigorous, we're going to talk about how rigorous. It's rigorous standards. They look at, and when I mean they, B Lab, the nonprofit that is the overseeing body of this certification, B Lab looks at everything. They will look at all your skeletons in the closet. And you're going to need to provide documentation for every answer you make. And so it is rigorous, and it looks at your social and environmental performance, and it really calls out the accountability and transparency of all the things that you do. That's one of the core values of being a B Corp is being accountable and being transparent with everything, the good and the bad. You can see companies really doing that well, as Patagonia, when they talk about, these products were doing really good on our sustainability, but then this product over here, yeah, we're not doing so good, and we're working on it. And they're completely honest about it. And that's awesome, because then that they actually care, right? So that amount of transparency is really at the core, at the heart of what B Corps stand for. So speaking of their goals, right? It's about balancing purpose and profit. B Corps will, when they make decisions about their business, not just look at what is good for all the shareholders or owners, or in the pockets of their owners. They look at, how is this decision going to affect my employees? How is this decision going to affect the community, the planet, my customers? They take all stakeholders into account when they make those decisions. So, and when they go through certification and they undertake the governance aspect of the certification, they wrap that promise into the governance of their business. So after they become certified and after they make that shift in their governance, they will be held accountable, so that all of their decisions going forward need to take all of the stakeholders into account when they make those decisions. And it's really about being a part of a community of leaders, right? When you become a B Corp, you become part of a B Corp family. And B Corps love supporting other B Corps. They love using their products. They love using their services. They love helping one another. You'll see lots of collaborations between fellow B Corps on certain products, which is kind of fun when you start to look at things and go, oh, wait, those were both B Corps and they collaborated together. It's fun to see. So a lot of folks get B Corp and benefit corporation kind of confused, because they're very similar. It is understandable why the confusion happens. They were both kind of started by B Lab, and B Corp is a certification. It's a stamp on something to say, yes, these guys are walking the talk. Benefit corporation is an actual entity type, like S Corp or C Corp. It is an entity type. And recently, October 2018, there was Benefit LLC is now available as well. So that's exciting to see the different entity types make that shift to be able to basically take the mission and purpose and drive it into the governance of the business on how decisions are made. And that's really the biggest difference between, if you're an S Corp or a C Corp and you want to shift to a benefit corporation, that's the difference. That there isn't really any tax at the moment. There isn't any real tax differences. It's the mission and how you make the decisions as a business. And you're putting that into the governance so that you can be held accountable for it. So both benefit corporations and B Corps have very similar missions and movement to use business as a force for good. They meet definitely higher standards of accountability and transparency. B Corp has the assessment, and benefit corporations, they have to submit a report as well. There are differences though. So benefit corporation, as we said, it's a legal status bestowed by a state. Not all states have a benefit corporation or a benefit LLC available to them, but it is something that is conferred by a state. And the certification is actually a framework. There's no legislative anything there. It's basically a written assessment that you take. Benefit corporation status is, like I said, not available in every state, but B Corps are available all over the world. B Corps have an audit assessment When you fill out your assessment, B Lab, I'll actually go through and review your assessment to make sure your answers are actually true. You actually have to say, I answered these things, and here's the documentation to prove I answered these things, that there's truth there, right? So that is a very strong difference between a B Corp and a benefit corporation. A benefit corporation, you put out your report to say, these are the things that we're doing, and here's how we're doing on these things, right? But there's no one that goes and reviews that, right? There's no oversight. B Lab has strict oversight over benefit corporate or B Corps. And B Corps have to recertify every 3 years. So they know that these folks aren't just one and done. They have to keep up with the certification. And many B Corps, once they get certified, they look to see how many points they have, and they try to get more points the next time. So they're always bettering themselves as a business, which is exciting to see. So why become a certified B Corp? So many good reasons. One, become a leader in your industry, right? There's so many different industries that are in the B Corp world. I think there's 150 industries currently represented in the family of B Corps. And it's still fairly new enough that getting the certification now, you still are a leader in your industry. You're still being an innovator in your industry. Like I said, it helps differentiate from all the greenwashing. You can walk through a grocery store and see so many different products or so many different businesses saying that they are eco-friendly. Are they really? Or is it just greenwashing and marketing? As a marketer, I'm always cautious about, is this just a marketing claim to sell more things? Or is this really true? Is there proof of this? And when I see a product that has the, sustainable or eco-friendly, I'll flip it around and I'll look for a logo. And I'm like, okay, well, non-GMO, fair trade, give me something, right? So I'm looking for that third-party verification. And if I see B Corp, that's going in my cart immediately. It generates a lot of press and social buzz. There's lots of exciting things that happen in the B Corp community. So there's lots of great opportunities to be a part of that voice. It benchmarks your performance, and businesses, benchmark their financial performance, but B Corp framework and ESG frameworks in general really benchmark the non-financial stuff, which investors and top executives are starting to realize the non-financial stuff is as important, or if not more important, than the financial stuff when it comes to the health of a business. You can have a business operating where they are getting really fantastic bottom line results, but if they have high employee turnover or lawsuits or just massive risk in the company, that's not a healthy company, right? So those non-financial things that the frameworks look at, really important, because the becoming a B Corp, it attracts and engages talent, which we know is so hard to find good talent and keep good talent. And not just keep good talent, but to keep your folks not just satisfied, but engaged. This helps engage them, because then they feel like they have a purpose and a mission, because the business itself has a purpose and a mission. So they feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you are. You like to feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself. And it gives you a sense of satisfaction. So this helps that piece. It saves money and gives you access to several services. As a B Corp, once you become a B Corp, you can get discounts from other B Corps. Just not as a business, but as a employee of a B Corp, you can get discounts. Working with like-minded business partners is always so much better than the reverse of that. We've all had clients that we just have not seen eye to eye with, or customers that we have not seen eye to eye with, and they're just not fun to work with. But imagine working with a bunch of folks that have the same basic understanding of using business as a force for good, and how satisfying that would be, and how much more fun that would be, right? So, excuse me. Why should business owners care? So, sustainability frameworks can measure more than a traditional financial report. We briefly discussed that before, where you get your audited financials or reviewed financials every year. But there's so much more metrics on your business that really do tell a story about the health of your business. That as a business owner, it really matters. Like particularly uh, employee turnover. We know it's really hard to find and keep employees, but there was a statistic that said an employee, it costs a company $50,000 per employee when it's a turnover situation. Now, of course, that's an average general cost, but the cost is real. You lose an employee, then you have, the loss of their work. You have, to the payout to go find somebody new, to bring them in, to train them, to get them up to speed. And that time period, it's rough. And so to be able to keep your employees, it's that one aspect of this that is just so valuable that it is a metric that business owners should be looking at if they're not. um, it definitely gives you more transparent forecast into the company's future, both on return and in risk. A lot of the stuff that the framework has you looking at is areas that in your company that you could have open for risk. Things for fraud, things for, data security issues. It's not just about environment and pollution and if you're composting, right? There's so much more to sustainability. It used to be, 50 years ago when sustainability first started, everyone thought, sustainability, we have the CPA and we're all talking about emissions and about recycling. Sustainability now is so much more. It's about equal pay. It's about, healthy, sustainable communities. It's about eliminating poverty and hunger and all of the things that go into that. It's about diversity, equity, and inclusion within the businesses. So, it really takes into account so many different things, the, frameworks in general, sustainability frameworks in general, and really look at what is a risk that can happen. That's why B Corps, when they've gone through this process, come out with such a stronger company foundation that can weather a lot of storm. um, Customers are demanding products from sustainable minded companies. We saw a big push for this, not just for sustainable companies, but the big drive, after George Floyd's death, for folks to support Black owned businesses, and the amount of support and everybody shifting their spending and putting their dollar where their social justice heart was. And so we have a lot of people that have seen the power of that and know that, some of I have a podcast, Rebooting Capitalism, and my famous quote at the end is, "Your dollar is a ballot and you vote every day." And that is something that people have really seen the power of in 2020. And they're starting to vote more and more with their dollars. Even if it costs just a little bit more, they're willing to pay. I know I am. If it's, if it's just it's like, hey, that's a little bit more, but you know what? I know if I give this company my money, they're paying their people a fair wage. There's, their supply chain is clean. You have assurances when you buy certain products that are certified to certain standards. Once again, certification builds credibility and trust, helps with the greenwashing in today's market. And 90% of the S&P 500 filed sustainability reports in 2019. 90%. So when you think about the largest companies in the world that are filing sustainability reports, and they're starting to dig down into their supply chains, and their supply chains are all the small to medium-sized businesses. And so if they're digging down and asking small to medium-sized businesses, hey, what are you doing about XYZ? And this is making the demand pretty substantial because you need to answer them at some, to be able to hold that supply chain, right? To be able to hold that client. So these frameworks can help you be able to answer those questions and say, yes, we actually have considered this. We are actually measuring this stuff. We've been certified as a B Corp. Here we go. It helps, definitely. So this statistic is something that came out a few years ago. And I was going to pull it out of the deck, and I decided to leave it in because I think 2020 basically proved this statistic. It says, 63% are more likely to survive a financial crisis like that of 2008. And I think 2020 proved that businesses that had that loyalty and engagement with their staff, that had the strong relationships with their supply chains, that had good relationships with their customers, survived. And that's what B Corps do. They have strong supply chains. They have good, loyal employees. They have a wonderful relationship with their customers, that they are able to weather the chaos of 2020 better than most of their competitors. And so I leave this in to kind of say, this is what they predicted, and it happened. And I know that they're following up with another report. And so I'm hoping, there's going to be hard data on this soon. But my predictions is that it will blow the statistic out of the water, that it'll be higher than 63%. That's just my bias. Honestly, it's a biased opinion, but it's something that I've seen. We have a lot of benefit corporation clients and a lot of B Corp clients, and a lot of clients that operate like a B Corp, but we're still working on getting them through certification. But this definitely holds true. They survived a lot better and fared a lot better and are bouncing back better than their competitors. So the benefits of a certified B Corp. Going through this process roots out waste and operational efficiencies. You're looking at stuff that you haven't looked at since you've probably started your company. And digging in and going, do we really still need this process? Or, for instance, I was working with a company that had 5 dumpsters in the back and 2 pickups a week. And after we started going through and looking at their processes and looking at their production line, they got it down to 3 dumpsters with 1 pickup a week. And that may seem small, cost wise, right? Because, okay, how much does a dumpster cost and how much does a pickup cost? But when you think about the magnitude of that and the amount of waste that they weren't sending to a landfill, and the amount of, that cost off the bottom line every year, it adds up. It really does. It connects employees with a business's mission, right? Like I said, it gives them a sense of purpose to know the company is operating on this mission and purpose. It helps drive them to engage better with the company and the work that they're doing, which turns them into a much more productive workforce and more engaged. You have less employee turnover. It's a differentiator. You become a part of a community where, folks share best practices. I can tell you during 2020, they have a forum for all of the B Corps on their website, and called Beehive. And it was a flurry of information and people just sharing everything they could about anything, any topic you can think of: supply chains, the PPP loans, how to go through laying on, like, just all these things, how to go through putting your staff on furloughs or layoffs, and doing it in a responsible, empathetic way. To, it was just a wonderful flurry of information and sharing, even between competitors. So it was wonderful. It builds an automatic warm prospect base. I can tell you, being one of the only certified B Corp accounting firms in California for the longest time. We just had one of our friends join us in that. But being the first ones, we can walk into a room full of sustainable companies, B Corps or otherwise, and say, hey, we're a certified B Corp accounting firm. And it was so easy to be able to start that conversation from a place of common values, and common mission, to be able to start down that to become a client so much easier, because we both knew we were coming from a common place, right? So that was fantastic. So let's see, I just want to check our Q&A box. Remember, you can submit questions at any time in the Q&A box. And I will kind of keep an eye on that if anything pops up, and be able to answer it as it comes in. So, So who can become a certified B Corp? For-profit companies of any size. It has to be a for-profit though. Nonprofits, sorry, can't happen. Any industry in the world, literally any industry. What's fantastic about the assessment is they have it set up so that it really does customize depending on your industry and the size of your company. The assessment is very different for a sole proprietor than it is for a company, like I said, the size of Patagonia, right? It is different for a manufacturing company because it's going to have lots of supply chain questions, right? Lots of materials questions, as opposed to an accounting firm where our biggest supply is paper and we're kind of paperless anyways. So not really sure, you know, there's no supply chain there, right? There's no, there's a little, very small, but the questions kind of get tailored to a service business. So depending on industry, depending on how big, depends on the types of questions that are asked. But it still holds every single company accountable for the different areas in their business. Any legal structure, it can be an LLC, it can be an LLP, it can be corporations, ESOPs, doesn't matter what type of company you are, you can go through certification. The only thing is that you have to be at least 1 year in business, because you need at least 1 year's worth of data in order to fill out the assessment. Now, there is opportunities for businesses that are starting up that are planning to become a B Corp once they've hit 1 year. And there is a special pending B Corp process that you can go through to get a little logo that says a pending B, to show that your business is being set up in that B Corp way. And I have a link at the bottom for anyone who wants to go through the pending B information. I can also help anyone who is undertaking that process. So what does B Lab look at? There's 5 different areas. Governance, obviously, to figure out how you operate your business and to really kick the tires on your foundation. How you treat your workers, how you treat your community, how you treat the environment, and how you treat your customers. And really, there are several questions in all of the areas. It's about 300 questions, grand total. And besides the 5 sections, there is a 6th section that's the disclosures section that basically asks you to disclose if you sell alcohol or tobacco or firearms, or if you oil and gas, or if you have any lawsuits that are pending against you, things like that. Just general disclosures that everyone has to fill out. So those particular 5 areas, and in those areas, there's usually a theme. There's a little bit of supply chain woven out throughout it. There's a little bit of diversity, equity, inclusion questions throughout it. There's, so there's some definite themes woven between the 5 different areas. So like I said, it's around 300 questions. It all depends on the type of business and the industry that you're in. But generally, it's about 250 to 300 questions. There are 200 points possible. And I know you're thinking that math doesn't add up. 300 questions, 200 points possible. Yes, that means that there is going to be questions that you're going to fight for a tenth of a point on. It's kind of crazy making, but it really does make you want to fight for every last little point in that, in trying to make your business better. You only need 80 points in order to submit for an audit with B Lab. And I will say, try to get at least 81 or 82 points. And that way you have that little bit of buffer so that when you go through the review with B Lab, if they knock off a couple points, you still have a little bit of wiggle room. They're fair. If they see that you're not giving yourself enough points for something, they'll actually give you points too. So they're very fair. But you want a little wiggle room just to make sure. And let's see, I think we had a question come in here. I think I lost my Q&A window. There we go. Oh, well, thank you, Matt. Matt is just saying that this is really fantastic. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. I will go ahead and press on. If there's no other questions, I just want to pause for a second. So you need to reach at least 80 points. And like I said, 200 points possible. The process takes anywhere from 9 to 12 months just to kind of pull together all the data for the assessment. And then you need to go through scheduling your audit call with B Lab. And I will warn folks, right now they're a little bit behind because there was such a beautiful flurry of people wanting to become a B Corp in 2020. So they're running just a little bit behind. They're trying to staff up to meet the demand, which is exciting that we have this many companies going through certification right now. So there's a little bit of lag. It might take a month or two to get in with a call for B Lab to get through the assessment. But it generally takes 9 to 12 months because you're trying to get the amount of data needed to fill out the assessment. You're trying to, you're looking at stuff that you're like, I don't even know. We don't track that. Well, you'll have to go back and track it and get that year's worth of data in order to submit. So it does take 9 to 12 months. And looking at certain questions and going, okay, I know I have this data. If I pull this report and do some weird pivot table thing, I can get that data to spit out. And that's where having a consultant can really help you because they understand the different ways you can get your data because they know you have the data. It's just getting it into a digestible way that you can say, okay, wait, here it is. Here's the proof that we actually meet this criteria. Because sometimes it can be a little daunting to pull together all that documentation to support all the answers. There is an annual fee that you will have to pay to B Lab once you become a certified B Corp. And it is done sliding scale based on revenue. And I actually have a full grid of the fees right after this we'll hit. But you will need to pay that. So just right up front, it's free to do the assessment, but to become a B Corp and maintain certification, you do need to pay an annual fee to B Lab. That's just a great way to support the movement. So, and you'll need to recertify every 3 years. So it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you true to your word. And definitely a great way to show that you really do continue to walk the talk. So here is that certification fee table. And you can find this directly on B Lab's website, benefitcorporation.net/certification. I've got the link there for you guys to go check that out. And it's completely fair. I don't think it's too much. I know some businesses might say, oh, I can't. Totally understandable. But using the framework and doing the work that comes with filling out the assessment sometimes is so much more valuable than getting that third party stamp. But if you can, having that third party stamp and certification is fantastic. So challenges. What are the challenges to becoming a B Corp? A lot of times engaging your team and engaging your leadership in particular. I get a lot of calls from, directors of operations or, folks that aren't the owner, folks that are directors or managers, and it's harder for them to sometimes get their owner group our executive leadership engaged enough? Or even just their team. The owner might be completely engaged, and maybe their sustainability person is completely engaged, but it really does take a village. You're going to have to dig into your marketing group, your finance group, your HR group. You're going to have to dig into a lot of different places within your company. And if you can't get those folks engaged and on board, it's really difficult. Everyone's got to be in the boat and rowing in the same direction on this one. Finding the time to complete the B impact assessment. It's 300 questions. It's a bit of a beast, I will admit. And sometimes it's one of those things where you're trying to go through the assessment, but you need to run your business at the same time. Totally understand. Unless you have somebody who can devote, a large chunk of their week for, 9 to 12 months to get through the assessment, then, you're probably going to need to engage a consultant to come in and help you get through all of that data and to keep you accountable and kind of be that project manager to drive it. The consultant won't be able to enact stuff within your company. That'll have to be on you. There's going to be a lot of work on you, but they'll be able to help you stay on task and push through and bring ideas on how to different actions you can take to meet some of the criteria that you might not have thought of as great ways to improve your business. And then sometimes just meeting the legal requirement can be a challenge. Not a lot of people want to shift their business entity. And that's the thing, is once you become a certified B Corp, you will then be required to shift your business entity. So if you are S Corp or C Corp, you will be shifting to a benefit corporation. If you are a benefit, or if you are an LLC, you will be shifting to a benefit LLC. If you're a partnership, there is strict verbiage that will need to get put into your partnership agreement. So you'll need to redo the partnership agreement. So there is some governance things, some entity shifts that will need to happen. It's a very simple process for that. You just reach out to your lawyer that you work with and say, hey, we need to file the paperwork for the shift. It's not like you have to completely redo the entity type. It's just a small shift. But it really does feel good to do that, because you're wrapping your mission and purpose into the business. And that really means a lot, because that shows as a business owner to your customers, your community, your employees, that you're serious. Like, hey, I'm making this commitment, and look, we're going from this to this. It's a pretty big statement, and it's appreciated on many levels. So tips for using the assessment. So the process that I use, that I've used again and again, first you go through the whole assessment and get a baseline score, right? Figure out, okay, where are we at right now? Go through, answer everything, and make sure the answers are realistic for now, not aspirational, right? So you go get that baseline score to figure out, where are we starting from? It's not uncommon for folks to go through and only get 35 or 40 their first run through. Not everyone's going to run through and get 75 and be like, oh, we just need a little bit more to. It's completely not uncommon for folks to go through and come out with, 35, 40 their first run through. You want to try it. And then once you get your base score, then you can start to reach out and engage your team and talk to them. And maybe even before you start the process, start talking to them about the benefits of B Corp. Get them excited about it. So then when you come to them and say, hey, we have some work to do in your area, finance team, we really need to document your processes on, who, for fraud prevention, or IT team, we really need to look at our data and privacy security, or HR, we need to look at our pay scale. So there's different areas that this will dig into, and you want to make sure to engage your team and get them excited about it. So also they have ownership and they feel like they're helping the process along and that they are a part of it. So once you engage your team and you've got your baseline score, you want to review that assessment and look at, where can we realistically make changes? Where are we going to be able to get a few more points to close that gap, right? To be able to reach at least 80 or 81, and realistically be able to make an impact within our company. And then you're going to want to gather all the documentation. That's the key. The key thing is when somebody is trying to answer a question, I say, can you pull the documentation to prove that every time? And they'll go, well, I don't know. I'm like, okay, then is it realistic or is it aspirational? And you just have to do some more work on that. So that's a good key, is to look at this and go, can I have the documentation to back up this answer? And if not, it means there's probably a little bit more work to do. And then implement any improvements that you want to make within your company, so that you can reach those goals and really fine tune the answers in your assessment. And pretty much you're going to kind of rinse and repeat steps 3 through 6 over and over again until you reach that 80 points, or even higher. And then once you get your desired score of 80 or more, you'll want to reach out to B Lab and schedule your review call. And they will reach out and do the call. It is 2 to 3 hours. They're very fast paced on the call. It's kind of like this, show me this. No time for small talk. Sorry, got to get through this. And it's a little bit of a whirlwind. And there's certain questions that they will always ask every single time, to everybody. And then they have a random 10% that they pull, and they don't even know what it is. The computer tells them exactly the random 10% that they need to look at of the assessment. And you don't know what that's going to be. So you have to be ready for everything. And so they will ask those questions. You have to show your documentation. And sometimes they will ask for additional documentation that you didn't gather. And that's not uncommon at all. And so they'll ask you for a few additional things. And you'll need to gather and submit any additional data. And then once they say, okay, you have passed certification, you get to sign the Declaration of Independence for the B Corp community. You'll need to shift your legal designation if you have not done so. And then you'll pay your fee to B Lab, and you will get all of your certification logos, and you will get the beautiful page in the B Corp directory that you can direct your customers to and link to from your website, that talks about your B Corp certification, and it shows your scores, so you can be very transparent and publicly show everyone, hey, this is our score, this is how we scored on each of our areas. So that is the process. And when you go through that first time, it's okay to use estimates. When you go through that first time, go for gut answers, right? And just to get your baseline. And then you can go search and say, well, I think we have this answer in our handbook over here. Gut answers. It's going to take a long time to get through the first run through, because you're learning what are the different, areas of the assessment. And wow, I hadn't even thought they were going to ask this before. Things like, in your supply chain, do your suppliers, what's the biodiversity within your supply chain? Not a lot of companies think about that. So to stop and pause and think about that, it takes a minute. So that first run through, just to see the types of questions that they're asking and think about the type of data you're going to have to compile. So use estimates so that you can just kind of get through and figure out what you're starting with, right? And then, there's a couple things I wanted to point out that are in the assessment that are great tools. So first off, you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, I've got a little yellow box around a star and a little flag area. So these are little marks that you can use as you go through the assessment and all the questions. That little bookmark area, you can flag stuff that you want to come back to and say, hey, this one I need to go talk to this person in this department to get, better answer or understand this better to be able to answer this. You can bookmark that so you know to come back to it. So then you can go back to all your bookmark stuffs and not have to deal with the other stuff that you've already know you've got solid answers on, right? The little star is a great tool. It's a goal. So you can click on the star and it'll say, here are your answers. Here's what you want to answer, right? Like you can check what you want to upgrade to that answer to be. And then here is the time period you want to have the goal be in. So you answered this, you answered A and B, and you want to go C and D. And you want to say you're going to answer C and D in the next 3 to 6 months. And so you can click 3 to 6 months or 1 to 2 months. and you can add in little notes, and you then will get reminders to help you move that goal forward, so that as you start going through, you can get reminders, because that's the big thing, is that you're so into operating your business every day. Sometimes the B assessment kind of gets low on the totem pole for a while. And so, getting reminders to keep it pushing forward is so valuable. So that's a great goals tool. So don't overlook that piece. And at the bottom of the assessment, you'll see this activity box. That's a comments area. If you click into that, there's lots of things that you can do in there. You can attach notes that you want to say, notes about your answer that you want to draw B Lab's attention to. You can put in notes to yourself on how you got that answer, so that in 3 years, when you have to recertify, you remember what you did to get that answer the first time around. Highly valuable. Use that sucker. And then there is the attachment, the little attachment tool within there, so that you can actually attach all the documentation or attach links to areas to show the different things that you need to for each of the answers. So highly great area for that. So improving your score. So here's some tips to improve your score. If you have gone through the assessment and your score is a little bit lacking, been there, understand. It can be frustrating that those tenth of a points or you want to get those points, but you also want to do it right. You don't want to just check a box, right? Because that's not what B Corp is. You don't just check a box. We want to make sure that we're building good foundations. So start thinking about any policies that maybe or processes that live in somebody's head that you probably should just write down and document, so that it is a living document. Things like the process for that you might need to go through for a product to attain a certification. For instance, if you have a beauty product that is, you want to have it be Leaping Bunny certified, and the process that you go through in your product development, so that that it's going to be Leaping Bunny certified. So it's those types of processes that kind of everybody knows, but is it documented? Highly recommend to document those types of things. Maybe having a code of conduct in your, an ethical code of conduct around using customer data in your employee manual, or an environmental purchasing policy, or policies in general on around your purchasing, for janitorial products. Or, are you getting soy-based or low VOC inks for your printers in your offices? Things like that, that it's kind of like an unspoken rule that we always get, non-toxic cleaning products, but is it written down anywhere? And does everyone know where to go look for those different rules and policies and procedures? Formalizing that stuff, getting it written down, will gain you so many points for all of the things. So that's basically what you're going to have to do a lot of when you're going through the assessment. It's going to have you looking in these areas and really documenting this stuff. So start tracking metrics. So once you go through that first run through of the assessment and you really see the types of questions that they're asking, it's going to flag in your head things that, hey, I never thought to track if my customers are B Corps, or if my customers are benefit corps, or where are my vendors? How close are they? Are they local? Are they within a 50-mile radius? Are they even in the United States? Can I bring more of my vendors more local? Is that possible? Or my customers, do I serve people that are in underserved populations, and how do I reach that group? So there's different things that you can really start to track that maybe you have not tracked before. And so you can really start looking at those metrics and think about ways that you can get that tracking started so that you can gather your data. Engaging your suppliers. This is a big one. Not a lot of people have reached out down their supply chain and started to engage their suppliers on sustainability. They maybe have talked to them about, what chemicals are we using in the process, or, things like that. But they haven't engaged them on slavery in the supply chain, and if there is any. They haven't talked to them about, what is your carbon footprint? What is your water usage? What is your practices for equal pay. And so coming up with what is important to you as an organization, for things that you really hope your supply chain family does, and engaging them on those conversations and starting now and saying, hey, we're going to undertake B Corp certification. This is going to raise some questions for us, and we may come back to you with some questions, and we hope that's okay. Just engage. And if they go, well, what is B Corp? Then you can talk to them about what B Corp is, and really start those conversations off, in a very warm way, because it's going to come down to, coming to the point where you're going to have your requirements and you're going to have your suppliers say, no, this is our requirements. If you want to be part of our supply chain, you have to adhere to this. And it's better to start that conversation now than, to come down with the hammer a little later. So definitely open up those conversations and start talking to them. And there's a lot of times you'll find beautiful best practice sharing back and forth between your supply chain and yourselves. And they're like, oh, well, we do, and this is how we do it. And oftentimes if they are doing these things, they're excited to share. So it's exciting to get ideas from your own supply chain, because it's probably going to be more applicable to your business. Measure your carbon footprint and offset it. It can sometimes be daunting to think about all the things that go into the footprint of a company, the electricity use, all of the travel or shipping, commuting. Well, we haven't really commuted very much in this past year, let's be honest. Many of us have not. And water usage, looking at all these things. And we actually partner with Bonneville Environmental Foundation on measuring the carbon footprint and stuff. I've got a great, fantastic handy worksheet that I use with all my clients to help calculate exactly what that is, the differences between the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 of the footprint, and how to measure that and all the things to look at, and then how to offset it or balance it or reduce it. We know net zero is kind of the thing that a lot of people are trying to strive for these days. But looking at ways that, we can be net zero or regenerative, right? And maybe looking at retrofitting your building to be net zero or regenerative in its energy use, things like that. And then the one that I always recommend is, you're gonna have to switch your entity type anyways. Why not do it now and get the points? So if you become a benefit corporation now, you can get up to 10 points, which is huge in the B Corp assessment. So I highly recommend doing that shift now, because you'll get the points for it. You're gonna have to do it later anyways. Might as well get the points. So, oh, there we go. Yes, it was 150 industries. So this is the community as of this morning. I went and made sure all my numbers were up to date. So there are currently 3,821 certified B Corps throughout the world, in 150 industries, 74 countries, all with one unifying goal of being business as a force for good. Many B Corp brands that you probably already know. I think a few brands that are maybe even on this webinar. Looking at you, Patagonia. But yeah, there's fantastic brands out there. A lot of times people don't even know that that the Cabot cheese they're buying in the grocery store is a B Corp, or that Ben & Jerry's ice cream. We've all had Ben & Jerry's, right? Good stuff. Ben & Jerry's ice cream is a certified B Corp. So there's lots of great B Corps out there. And you can support this movement by becoming a B Corp yourself, shopping at B Corps, supporting them with your dollar, working at a B Corp, because, let's face it, owners, people have always asked my managing partner, for instance, why do you want to become a best place to work? Or why do you want to become a B Corp? And he goes, well, I work here too. Why wouldn't I? So we all want to work for a company. Doesn't matter where you are in that company. If you're an owner or if you're a janitor, you always want to work for a company that does good, that treats employees well, because at the end of the day, we're all working at the same place. So working for a B Corp is fantastic. And then just spreading the word and getting as many people knowledgeable about what a B Corp is is beneficial to the whole movement on such a greater level. So this is me. How to get a hold of me. This is my podcast. Check it out. I actually have an episode with Ben and Jerry's coming up where we talk about using their brand for activism and a few of their tasty flavors that they just released. So yeah, there's that's definitely a picture of my hair pre-COVID. And yeah, so get a hold of me. Please, if you have, if you have any questions, please go ahead and drop those into the Q&A box. And I will, like I said, I've recorded this, so I will go ahead and post this and send you all a link to the recording and to the slide deck. And I don't see any other questions coming through. Well, thank you guys all for coming today. I really appreciate it. And oh, there we go. Okay. Do I have a B Corp team? Right now, I am a B Corp team. I am the one doing all of the certifications for our firm. And once our practice gets a little bigger, I've got my eyes on a few of our audit associates to come in and help that that are already part of the B Corp community. And so we're hoping that that we can get a full team going pretty soon. Keith, where can we get the 300 questions? If you go to bcorporation.net, you can sign up for the assessment there, and it's free. You can get in and start monkeying around with all of the questions and figure out what you want to do to better your company. So yeah, bcorporation.net, and that link will be in the slide deck. So full-time job doing that by yourself. Yes, that is what I'm moving to. I'm actually going to be losing the marketing part of my title very soon, and moving into sustainability full time because the demand has been so wonderful. There's so many companies and so many of our clients that want to become certified B Corps. So I will be moving into sustainability full time within the next few months. So it's a very exciting time for me and for the B Corp movement. All right. Thank you, Sonia. I appreciate that. All right. Any other questions? These are good questions, guys. Thank you. All right. Well, if that is it, I will go ahead and sign off. Thank you for joining me today. Remember, your dollar is a ballot and you vote every day. Vote wisely, my friends.